Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome back to the Fumble Live. We, of course, have some football news to get into today, so get ready. But before we do that, subscribe to our channel, tap the bell for notifications, give this video a thumbs up, and leave a comment below. I also just want to mention it is 9/11 today, so I know I'm sending my thoughts to the victims of the tragedy that happened so many years ago, so I just wanted to shout that out. And now let's introduce the Fumble Squad, you guys. I'm Devin Howard. You can find me on Instagram as @DevinHoward. Chris?
It's your boy Chris. You can find me everywhere at CK2K.
We got the blur.
Happy Friday. I know. I was trying not to laugh. Happy Friday, everybody. It's your girl, Jackie Ray. You can follow me everywhere at Jerry the Fanatic.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your girl, Britt Johnson. You guys can follow me on all social media at I am Britt Johnson.
Let's jump right into the first need-to-know news story. There's a lot to digest here. So the Chiefs and Texans linked arms following the anthems. They were standing in solidarity with one another and had a moment of silence while different phrases flashed on the screen, the boards about, being anti-racist and all of that. I thought it was a really beautiful moment. I loved seeing this. It gave me chills. But the silence was shattered by fans, and there is some debate as to what the fans were saying, but largely the reaction online and the belief is that they were booing from the crowd. So we're going to play a clip for you right now. Leo, if you could just roll that clip right now. So, I don't know. Some people are saying they were booing. Some people were saying they were shouting Chiefs. We're going to talk about it. But if people are booing, the fact that they have the audacity to boo something that's in support of racial equality is, to me, it's shameful. But of course, I guess we can't be surprised in this day and age. But it also makes it clear to me that none of the issues that we're seeing with kneeling during the national anthem and all of that, it was never really about the anthem. It wasn't really ever about the flag. It was just that people don't want to see racism end, I guess. And they also don't want athletes standing up for something that they believe in and showing their humanity and doing anything other than playing their sport. So that was my takeaway from it. If people were booing, I know I feel disappointment in those fans, but it makes me feel inspired to continue fighting and doing what I can to promote and support racial equality. But of course, there is some debate. So Jackie, like I mentioned, people are saying that they were shouting Chiefs. Others say they were booing. The athletes even said that they heard boos. But what do you think they were saying?
I think they were definitely booing, but on top of that, it was supposed to be a moment of silence. So either way, they were showing, a level of disrespect. So, I wasn't a bit surprised. I'm from Denver. We used to go to the Kansas City when Denver would play the Chiefs just so we could get a road trip. We went there a couple of times, but we stopped. Denver and Kansas City are very similar in a lot of racial discrimination ways. So either way, I know I've read online that a lot of Chiefs fans are saying, no, we were shouting Chiefs. And I'm like, even if you were doing that, they called for a moment of silence to let's show our solidarity for, social equality and things of that nature. So I heard booing. And then, I also thought that maybe it was them booing. The Texans did not come out for the national anthem. They stayed in the locker room. So they could have been, booing them when they were coming out. But again, that's a sign of disrespect. So I don't care if they were booing or if they were cheering. Either way, it was a sign of disrespect. I can't say it upset me in any way because at this point, it would be impossible for me to be surprised by anything that happens in this country. So I think it's just par for the course, unfortunately.
Yeah, actually, you bring up a great point, and it leads me to my question for Chris. So like Jackie mentioned, the Texans stayed in the locker room for both national anthems, and the Chiefs still stood on the sidelines, all but one player. We had one player kneel. So, Chris, I want to ask you, do you feel it would have been more powerful for the Texans to kneel for the Star-Spangled Banner but stand for Lift Every Voice and Sing, or are you glad that they stayed inside the locker room?
Oh, I'm glad the Texans stay in the locker room. I thought that was fine. And we're going to talk about the Dolphins, who made their statement days before their game that they said they're going to do the same thing. I mean, to each their own. Like, if whether they go out there and kneel or whether they decide to stay back in the locker room and skip on both the songs. Either way, it is a protest that's bringing attention to it, and I'm with that. So of the two, yeah, I stand with Texans of what they did, and I had nothing against it, and I was cool with it.
And then, Britt, how do you feel about the way both teams and the fans handled the pregame events? And what was your reaction to the news about the boos?
Well, watching the game, like pregame stuff, I initially it sounds like boos. I was at in Kennedy for the AFC Championship game against the Titans, and when they do say Chiefs, it sounds like they're booing their own team. So I could see how some of that probably was, again, like Jackie said, it was supposed to be a moment of silence, but also it was kind of unorganized where they didn't make it like super clear, and the players are still running around everywhere. Nobody's even lined up when they even finished it, and it was like kind of just a little chaotic in that moment. So I think there could have been fans that were confused, like, are we supposed to be quiet here? Because it wasn't really like super like clear. Like they like quickly said it while the players are still walking around, so everybody's like giving each other high fives and stuff when they had said that moment, instead of like waiting till everybody lined up and said, let's all now take a moment of silence for this moment of unity. They should have done it like that. So I think it was just chaotic. And yes, both teams decided to do that relatively last minute. That wasn't something that they had decided early on, because like I spoke about yesterday, at the time of the show yesterday, they were still both debating if they were going to come out during the national anthem. Obviously, we know the Texans decided to stay back, and I know Deshaun Watson spoke to that and said that they decided to do that because they didn't want any confusion on anything, and they didn't want have some players feel a type of way and other players feel a type of way about whatever. So they all just decided as a team, we're just going to stay back on this one. I do know some players they didn't come out onto the field, but they did line up during the Lift Every Voice and Sing for the Texans. That just wasn't shown, but they did say that they did have some players come not onto the field, but come out a little bit during that time. And then obviously we did hear the fans boo the Texans when they did originally come out. That was very clear boo there. But there's different videos where you see some fans clapping and stuff. And like I said, when I went to the game, the Kansas City fans, I've always known them to be like really friendly, and I've always known them to have like good energy. They did when I went to the game. I was like repping the Titans. I wanted the Titans to win that game, so I had on Titan stuff, and they were still being nice to me in that moment. So, and we all know jazz was basically like created in Kansas City. The National Negro League, same, was created in Kansas City. So, they have still, obviously, like everywhere else in the world, racist fans, but they also have like a lot of people that aren't racist. So I think it was both. I think there were boos, but I think it was also some cheers, and there were some Chiefs, and I just think it was unorganized personally.
All right. Well, for those of you who are watching us live, let us know in the chat, what did you hear? Boos? Was it Chiefs? What's your overall impression from that moment? It is the talk of the internet right now. So thanks for sharing your thoughts with me on that, you guys. Now let's jump into the next need to know news story. Skip Bayless. So Dak Prescott opened up about suffering from depression after his own brother passed away. Completely understandable. And Skip Bayless had no sympathy for him really at all. So I'm going to play a clip for you there from this show as well. So Leo, can you toss that up there for us?
Don't have sympathy for him going public with, I got depressed. I suffered depression early in COVID to the point that I couldn't even go work out. Look, he's the quarterback of America's team.
So he went on to say, the sport that you play, it's dog eat dog. It's no compassion, no quarter given on the football field. If you reveal publicly any little weakness, it can affect your team's ability to believe in you in the toughest spots, and it can definitely encourage others on the other side to come after you. I personally find it very refreshing when an athlete is willing to speak out about mental health struggles. I think that them being vulnerable can be so impactful for people who are going through the same thing. And I applaud anybody who's willing to be public with that, with those kinds of issues. I think we need more of that. And after all, yes, Dak's a quarterback, but he's a human. And what he went through was tragic and difficult. So I feel that Skip's take is pretty heartless. I don't know, just because he's a quarterback and he's tough on the field doesn't mean he can't feel, emotionally weak. That's just how my perspective on it. He's actually, Skip is getting ripped apart on. Des Bryant tweeted at him writing, "I get on Twitter to laugh, joke, spit real life shit with people, but I'm being very clear with you, Skip Bayless. F you. I pray you never have to face mental illness or anything close to what people face with when they have mental health concerns. You'll fold like a bee." So that's what Des Bryant said. Britt, what is your reaction to Skip's take?
Confusion number one, because he is a Dallas Cowboys fan. Everybody knows Skip Bayless loves the Dallas Cowboys. For you to say that about somebody and not have compassion for your own team, that's kind of like weird. Like, it's a weird, I get maybe if it's another quarterback and he said that, I would understand it a little bit more, because he clearly, as he's been doing this whole time, he's been trying to get under people's skin about stuff. Like, he goes after LeBron James, this, that, and third, and those are just people he don't like. But for you to like the guy and like the team and then say the same thing, it's just very confusing. Obviously, yesterday was World Suicide Prevention Day. I posted about my struggles in the past of after my mom dying, trying to commit suicide and stuff like that. So, and Dak Prescott's mom died as well. Like, I remember when his mom passed away. Like, I used to cover him when he was at Mississippi State when I was in Louisiana. So I literally remember messaging him the day he got drafted to the Cowboys in the fourth. I was like, "Hey, you're a Cowboy. I'm so happy," because like he was just such a good guy, and seemed so cool and stuff like that. And I know his struggles from the past with like his mom passing away. I'm like, oh my gosh, my mom died too when I was 13, and this, that, and the third. And then to now lose his brother during this time where it's like people weren't really seeing each other and around each other because COVID and all of this, that, and the third. It is like very hard, but it's not a but football just, it is the hardest. I think it's the hardest place for players to actually show their emotions. We've seen time in and time out where guys like Odell Beckham Jr. or even Des Bryant has gotten the wrath of, people thinking that you play football, you got to be this tough macho man. You can't do this. You can't, like, even the worst of there's no crying in baseball. Football is way worse than that. Like, you cannot even act like something's wrong or do this, that, and the third. And obviously we're in a generation now where we're open to expressing our emotions, and we think it's good to talk about these kind of things, because things, as we know, cannot get better if we don't actually realize the problem and then speak to them. But Skip's an old guy, and he probably just is in that realm of like, this is football. You don't show emotion. You don't act like this. Everything's grit and grimy. You gotta do this, that, and the third. And that's not what it is now. So I feel like these older sports hosts, analysts, whatever, are kind of going to end up having to start trickling themselves out, because they're just not connecting with the generation anymore. And we've seen several of them say stuff that's just not okay to say. We've seen people lose their jobs in the last month or so because they've been saying the same thing that they've always said, but now it ain't okay to say it anymore. Do I think Skip's going to get fired right now? No, I don't think he's going to get fired, but I do think that it is a time now where the ESPNs and the Foxes need to start looking into bringing, younger people in that just understand the generation, because this isn't the same football that it was even 5 years ago. So I think we need to acknowledge that and start moving forward and be comfortable with letting these guys express their feelings, because they are human beings.
Absolutely. I think vulnerability is actually a great trait to have, and I admire anybody who's able and willing to do that. Now, Jackie, you've always been a big advocate of mental health, especially when athletes are open about it. So what's your feeling on what Skip had to say, and what would you say to Skip if you had the opportunity to talk to him?
Skip I don't agree with Britt in saying, oh, we got to get some of these old guys out, especially when we're talking about Skip Bayless, because Skip is incredibly intelligent. He knows exactly what he's doing. Skip intentionally says the things he says to get attention. That's why he says the things that he says. And so, yeah, I'm not on that train, because I definitely think some of these old heads, some of the things that they say is kind of enlightening sometimes. But I think what Skip was trying to say, if you watch the whole thing, he took enough verbal pauses that you probably couldn't even get through it. It was kind of ridiculous. But I think what he was trying to say is, I definitely applaud Dak for saying this. And I definitely applaud Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones came out and said that him being open with what he's saying shows leadership. I think Skip was trying to say the opposite of that, that it shows a sign of weakness. But I think what Skip was trying to say is, let's say things don't go right. Let's say all of a sudden we're week 4 and the Cowboys are 0-4. Dak is throwing a whole bunch of interceptions. Now we're going back to, is he mentally capable of playing this game right now? We know that his brother committed suicide in April, and yeah, he might have been dealing with a lot of things on his own because we were in lockdown in March. So there's a lot that he's dealing with. So I think what he's saying right now is yeah, okay, you're dealing with this and that's great. And I think if whatever Dak decides to do, I think, and I'm always going to say that, whatever you need to do to be mentally healthy on your own, you need to do it. Give a damn what Skip or anybody else says. But I think what Skip is saying is, hey, this is a great conversation to have with your teammates. Let them know where you are so you can, build that connection with them, build that support with them. But you don't have to let the sharks in the water know that you're bleeding. You know what I mean? And I think that that's kind of what he's getting at. I do agree with Britt that it's kind of insensitive. But at the same time, from a marketing standpoint, no, Skip's not going to get fired, because him saying this is bringing ratings over to the show. So it did exactly what it was supposed to do in that sense. And it's not a fireable offense, in my opinion. What he's saying is, don't show signs of weakness right now when you're about to be the leader of America's team and you're starting the football season on Sunday. So I get what he was trying to say. Whether or not I agree with it, I don't know what I would say to Skip. I would ask him what his intent was. Was your intent to get ratings? And if so, okay, well done. If your intent was to bash a person who showed, some vulnerability, then I would read him the riot act. So I guess it would be more what he was going for in that moment.
Can I just say, to your point, sorry. I think that's just a very dangerous game to play, to get ratings for something like that. Like, that is not, like, this is somebody, like, I remember when I spoke up about stuff, I had people literally messaging me like, oh my gosh, like, I literally felt like killing myself, and now I'm not because you spoke up. And that's what Dak Prescott could have done for people. Like, he could have literally saved people's lives by being like that open to speaking out about his struggles and like understanding whatever. Like, to get ratings and talk about somebody's mental health is not okay. And then also, what is the fireable offense? Because we also know Till and a bunch of other people got fired for just talking about Black Lives Matter. So to me, anything could be fireable offense. And if you're like promoting like racial injustice stuff and all that kind of stuff, and you get fired over your job, then why shouldn't you get fired over talking about somebody's mental health issues?
I just don't think it's a fireable offense. I think Dak saying, because when you put yourself out there, he's not saying, oh, Dak is a horrible person for showing signs of weakness. Dak is wrong for saying this. That's not what he's saying. He's saying, here's the leader of this team. He's about to start his season on Sunday. Maybe this is not the time to drop this blood in the water when sharks are circling. That's what he's saying. I don't think that's a wrong thing to say, because he didn't say that Dak was wrong for feeling this way. He didn't say that it wasn't understandable that he felt this way.
It was a shut up and dribble moment to me, period.
Well, I mean, I can see how you take it like that, but I think he is a Cowboys fan. And for him, he wants the leader of his team to be the strongest person on the team and not show weakness. And I think it's the opposite of what you're saying. I think it's because of his fandom that he's on this trip. So I don't think, because like I said, his whole thing, if you watch the whole thing, it wasn't like, shame on you, Dak, for feeling this way. You're a bad person. That wasn't what it was. It was like, hey, can we have these? Same thing we said about Porter Jr. yesterday. Can this be a locker room conversation? Does this have to be public? And so I don't think that's a fireable offense, because that's a legitimate question. I think it's a beautiful thing that Dak shared that. But again, in 4 to 6 weeks, if the Cowboys suck, are we going to revisit this moment and say that perhaps Dak isn't at the place mentally where he should be to lead this team? That will be a question if he doesn't succeed.
to that point, I think that Dak is almost protecting himself by speaking out about it. But I think the larger problem here is that we look at somebody who is struggling with depression or who is struggling with their mental health as a weakness. And I think that alone is the thing that needs to change. We need to destigmatize, mental health and depression. So I think I'm with Britt on this one. But Chris, we haven't heard from you, and I'm dying to know your thoughts on all of this. Where do you stand?
As per usual, I'm right in the middle because Britt's first thing she said is the confusion part, and I don't think that I wasn't really too confused by it because I think, like Jackie had just mentioned, I think he is just one of those Cowboys fans that is going to be very critical on his player, and he's going to call him on, like we Jackie had just said. Is he going to be mentally tough in situations when, let's say, I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to be positive about it. Say the Cowboys are in a position for a Super Bowl. Is he going to be mentally strong enough to handle something like that, pressure like that, in dire moments? He has 2 interceptions. They're down at the half in the Super Bowl, like stuff like that. Does that make it right? No, I'm not. And that's where I then Britt's side, because I still feel ultimately we can try and put together what he tried to say, but that's not what he said. And I think that's where it's hard for me to ultimately hear any of it because, as you mentioned, Jackie, he had so many opportunities. He had so many moments where he tried to catch his thoughts, tried to catch what he was going to say, and he still continued to spew out things that it was just not right to say, especially with everything that went down with him. I understand the thought process, sure. Maybe he's not, and that's okay. He can still be a starting quarterback that can possibly win games, but maybe if it comes down to situations that maybe he's not mentally tough, sure, fine. But then the way to go about it, I just do not believe that is the way to go about it, and that's not the way to say it. And again, back on Jackie's side, skip Bayless. There's a reason why Jason Whitlock was on TV. He was, and that was thriving on things that he knew people were going to. What people were going to talk about. And I think this is just another moment for Skip Bayless. So as per usual, I'm right in the middle, but ultimately I do not believe that he, regardless of how we might think or what we think he intended to say, he didn't say it, and I'm going to fault him for that because it just did not come across great, and I don't know, it just was not a good look, and I wasn't a fan of it at all.
And I think Yeah, and to what everybody said, Skip knew, I think, exactly what he was doing. He knew he was going to be getting under people's skin. He knew he was going to be getting a bunch of mentions in his on his Twitter page. He knew exactly what he was doing, but it is a dangerous game to play, like what Britt said, because he's basically feeding the beast of toxic masculinity, and I think that's something that we need to stop doing. We need to encourage people to be open with their emotions and their struggles, because we're all human. At the end of the day, we're all human. But on that note, Chris, take it away.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, day 2, the fuzz continues. But it is time for Post Up with your boy Chris, Quarantine Fuzzy Edition. I apologize. I don't know what's going on, but here we are yet again. But we had football yesterday, people. We had football. Yes, there were those moments that we talked about earlier. It was stupid. It was annoying. We didn't even talk about Chris Collinsworth and what he said, because I'm so glad that blew up the way it did, because that's a conversation for another day. Anyways, but regardless of all that, we had football yesterday, and it was really, really nice to see. And it was cool to see that they even did have some fans in the stands. And if that continues to be a trend with other teams, the way that they did it, I can't really say, especially with these outdoor stadiums, I can't really say I'm completely against it, because it seemed pretty cool with that. But one of the funnier moments came during the game when Deshaun Watson was up at QB, and he went off for a rush, and it led to him going over on the Chiefs sidelines, and he went all the way to go sit down next to his buddy Patrick Mahomes, as you guys I'm sure saw in the video, and they had a cute little moment before he realized, all right, enough of this, I gotta get back on the field because I'm playing against you. But it was a funny little moment, cute. Normally I don't like that, but for week 1, we're just all excited to see football back. I'm gonna let it slide. But also the memes also helped me being okay with this one, because this meme right here, this is one of many that said they really drafted Trubisky ahead of us, and they both laugh at each other, and there were memes along those lines. So football's back. Moments like these are cool. I this one slide. I'm cool with this. It made me laugh and giggle. And moving off of that, but staying to the same game, another thing that a lot of people were talking about was Andy Reid's choice of face cover. Right? He went with the full clear Iron Man mask. Because if you look closely, it's almost as if you could see the like Iron Man look on the mask. You can see like the eyes fogged up. You can see mouth like that. It's crazy. But the funny was, this thing was fogged up before football was even played. This thing was already all the way fogged up. And B, Andy Reid is trying to fool us by making us believe really can see the plays that he's looking at right now. We know you can't see a damn thing, but maybe he could because he blindly coached his team to win the first game of the season, which led to this tweet that came out. And this was another meme that was going around. This tweet that had said, if it comes up, Andy Reid can't even see out of his face shield and still is beating Bill O'Brien. And it's facts because every time they went back to him, it was just like more and more fog. I was just waiting for like a complete. I thought it was gonna like turn into like snow or something. I don't know, but it was just so funny. But he got the job done, and he didn't even one time. I didn't see no towel come up where he cleaned it. Maybe I missed it, but he entire time with that fogged up face shield, and he got the job done. So shout out to Andy Reid, I guess. But they got their first win of the season. Sticking with this game, we had a bit of a pregame walk from McCole Hardman of the Chiefs. He decided to go out there in his damn PJs and a big old teddy bear to match. Now, he was going out there. We're having all these people, put together saying that, he's a sleeper, so people are sleeping on him, so he's wearing the PJs and whatnot. But I personally like this tweet better that said this, if you can come up. Oh, gosh, I lost my thing. Oh, the tweet it said, McCole Hardman is dressed to tuck the Texans into bed. And I thought that was pretty cool, pretty funny, because that is actually what happened. Because not only did the Chiefs offense just go out there and play, the Chiefs defense, they showed up, because everyone, even in the Super Bowl, everyone talked about how the Chiefs defense is probably the weaker link of the team. But in this week, no, it's week one, some teams are rusty and whatnot, but it looked good. So before we move off of this and talk about something else, I do want to talk to you, Britt Johnson, because I know you are very excited about football. I know you're more excited to see your team this weekend, but the fact that football was back, what was your entire vibe from the game itself last night, outside of the craziness from the boos and the comments from Chris Collinsworth? How are you feeling about the games? Do you think we should be a little bit more scared of the Chiefs? Talk to us.
So it's week one. It was game one. So I had posted on my social media this as well. I watched the very, very beginning because I wanted to see what teams decided to do, like what was going to happen. And then right when the 15 minutes started for the first quarter, I said goodbye. I turned it off until after halftime, because I was like, listen, we haven't had preseason. And I think one of the first couple plays I saw was like a whack play. I was just like, I ain't got time to watch this right now. Like, I'm not trying to watch this because everybody's still getting their little kinks out. I'll come and watch after halftime. So I watched after halftime. I think whatever kinks they had issues in the first two quarters, maybe they got out a little bit, because I saw, like you said, the defense was playing a lot better for the Chiefs than I had remembered them playing even last year, all season. But I think both teams, even like the Texans, they kind of, I know it was tied 7-7 for a little bit, and then the Chiefs kind of took a big lead, and it was like 31-7, and then the Texans were able to catch up. So I think they were trying to, especially Deshaun Watson not playing without DeAndre Hopkins anymore. I think he's really trying to find out who his new favorite receiver is going to be. So I think that was going to happen this whole game. And I think we're going to see that more on Sunday and Monday Night Football as well. Like, the games are going to be a little rough. I don't even think these games are indications of what the teams are going to look like this season. 100%. I think certain teams will get some confidence, with week one. Especially Cam Newton, I want him to have a really good week one, just because I want his confidence to get up there, so then we can see how he's going to play this season. But this week, because we didn't have a preseason, I'm not really judging too much of what the teams are going to look like moving forward. But I was excited. I actually didn't watch any basketball yesterday. When I did turn the TV back on, I just watched football, and I was really excited to have football back for sure.
Well, that doesn't surprise me at all when the Lakers were the only basketball game on. You're not slick, Britt Johnson. You're not slick. But no, you're 100% correct on that. And that's something I'm sure Jackie could probably attest to. That's something I'm used to as a Saints fan because we know even when there were preseason, Drew Brees was even playing the preseason. So I know week 1 through 3, I give him a pass because I know that when all his interceptions for the entire season, he gets those in the first 3 weeks. And also we do a lot of running. So I think that's a good mentality to have tonight.
For your Saints,
I'm just
bringing back the team. So you guys have no excuses. Y'all got the same team y'all had last year. So I don't want to hear anything if you guys don't do well against the Tampa Bay this weekend. Okay. Nice.
Drew's gonna try to feed Emmanuel Sanders. Look, we got new weapons, Britt. Give us. We gotta learn the period. Leave us alone. Leave us alone. All right, but moving off from the game from last night, as I had mentioned earlier, the Dolphins dropped a dope video, dropping a message. Britt and Jackie have both been very of how they've been feeling about the Dolphins in general and how they've been flipping it up, being, pretty much ran by black folks, outside of the owner. And for them to drop the video the way they did, for me personally, I'm curious to hear what you guys say. I loved it. I thought it was dope. I thought it was really well put together. No music, no gimmicks. Just, there was a kind of a gimmick because they were all rhyming, but outside of that, just, addressing everything that's going to be asked and everything that, people are going to say, but basically dropping the message that they will choose to not go onto the field during either of the, the national anthem and the neither song before the game. And then they'll sit in the locker room. And then when the game is ready to play, they will jump out. So here's the first part of that video.
Is it authentic? That's the mystery.
Or is it just another symbolic victory? Now there's 2 anthems. Do we kneel? Do we stand?
If we could just right our wrongs, we wouldn't need 2 songs.
We don't need another publicity parade.
So we'll just stay inside.
Until it's time to play the game.
And what I loved about that first part is because they're calling out, all of the new gimmicks and the NFL all of a sudden, flipping the script and stuff like that. And, the Dolphins being straight up like, all right, cool. Is this for real or are you just doing this to make the league look good? And I got to say, man, I hats off to them because, people, I already saw on the internet people joking. It's like, that's great. But it's saying that and stuff like that. All that aside, I love the message on this. And I also absolutely love the ending, just the drop mic moment from Coach Flores, who just to me, just drops the mic off this entire video. I implore every single one of you guys, if you have not seen this video, go watch the entire, only 2 minutes long, but it's dope. But here's Brian Flores just wrapping this whole thing up. Drop the mic, Coach.
Before the media starts wondering and guessing, they just answered all your questions. We'll just stay inside.
Facts.
I'm sorry. Oh no, man! No, look. I'm here for it, but I'm curious to hear what you have to say, Jackie Ray, because, like I said, you and Britt have been on the Dolphins bandwagon as far as making that turn because of who is upstairs as well as who's on the field. So how did you feel when this video was dropped by the Dolphins and their decision to stay in the locker room?
I feel like they said everything that I've been saying. It doesn't make sense. I like the statement. If we fixed our problems, we wouldn't need 2 anthems. So we're not playing this little game that you're trying to have us play. Or are we going to kneel for one? Are we going to stand for the? Nah, we ain't playing that game. We just gonna stay inside. Do what you do, NFL. We see the fake you. We gonna be the real us, and we gonna stay inside.
Crazy. I loved it.
Pimp mode. I loved it.
Man, it's just because this is what we've been talking about the entire. It's like the team is speaking out to not players, not superstars. The team went out and they are challenging the league, and I am all here for it. I love it. I don't care if it's the Dolphins. I love it.
We've gone from players being deathly afraid to speak out against anything in the NFL to we gonna make a whole 2-minute plus commercial talking about you doing this shady stuff. We know it's a publicity stunt. We're not buying it. We're not taking part of it. It's a complete 180 as far as the players are concerned. And I think it's dope that they're doing it as a team. But again, considering who they have in the offices there, I'm not surprised about it.
Not surprised.
I know Britt's not a big fan of the owner because he has done some things in the past. He actually made a whole thing about the kneeling and had an actual thing in place, but he's actually, before even Kaepernick started kneeling, he had been doing things to kind of bridge the gap in inner city. So he definitely is a man of a dual mind, but I'm sure he was very proud to see this as well. It's from what I know of some of the things he's done, not all, but I'm sure he encouraged this as well. So it's hard to not be a little baby Dolphin sometimes. You know, I'm definitely a fan of what they're doing right now.
Yeah. And then so many things too. And something as small as, you know, after the season they had, knowing they weren't good, but after the season they had in any other situation, being who Coach Flores is, because he is a brother, there's probably conversations that could have been that he was fired. He was not fired. If anything, it looked like his job was secure from the jump, knowing what it was. So there's all kinds of small little things that the Dolphins have been doing that I've been a fan of, and this right here. So yeah, I think I'm gonna be jumping on that bandwagon with you guys to see what's going on with the Dolphins this season for sure. So jumping off of that, now we're going to go back into some basketball talk, starting off with LeBron James, who is very happy. This is what I get. LeBron is very happy to have some people in the stands, whether it is family members from the opposing team or family members from his team. He is glad to have some fans in the stands because he decided to show off a little bit with this pregame shot, and it was a bucket. It was a bucket from all the way from the sideline. Bam. Wapow. And this is right before the blowout game that was between the Lakers and the Rockets. Dropping a little dance right there. See all the kids watching, laughing. Got dude taking video. Yeah, it's just LeBron being LeBron. And look, man, the Lakers right now are just dancing all over the Rockets. I have no comments for that team right now. I think they're going to wrap it up just like the Clippers are going to wrap their series up. So we'll be getting our Eastern and Western Conference Finals a lot sooner than I was expecting. I'm liking it. But moving off of that, we're going to somebody else who's normally playing basketball around this time of year, or not this time because technically they ain't playing basketball. They're actually getting ready for the new season. But you know what I mean. Around this time of the playoffs, it's Steph Curry. But we talked about it earlier. He was in Toronto. We showed the video of the guy geeking out when he saw him in the drive-thru. But he actually, while he was there in Toronto, he was hanging out with Drake. And this video came out of him doing a shooting contest with Drake. And I mean, it's obvious who won, but Drake held his own up until the very end. But like I said, there's no secret who won the contest. So here's that video. Drake was roped. I also want to mention Drake shooting the regular three and Steph shooting the NBA three. But if you're here or there. Game over. Nothing. I mean, I don't think anyone expected anything else to happen in that, but still, it was cool to see that. I just missed. I don't know. Maybe I'm alone. I just missed seeing Steph Curry shoot a shot. I just feel like watching playoffs, and this was weird to not see Steph. So seeing that was kind of cool. But yeah, okay, have fun. We were just last season, like, you know, you guys are hating each other and talking trash, but now you're best friends shooting in his gym. But hey, I mean, that's either my team, whatever. But also, we are speaking of teams. We're talking about Britt's team. We're talking about his dude, Lou Williams, because Lou Williams is out here ready to collect some cash from some of y'all fans out there that tries on Lou Williams. Okay, now if you guys remember, Lou Williams had to step out of the bubble due to family reasons and family death. But the main talking point was him hitting up the strip club and getting some wings to the point where he got the nickname Lemon Pepper Lou. And now I love the nickname. I'm a huge fan of it. But people went the extra yard to make shirts, to make merchandise, to all kinds of things that they were selling and capitalizing off of this nickname. Well, looks like Lemon Pepper Lou is he got himself a trademark on name, and he put it up on his social media to let these people know that he is coming. He put property and Lemon Pepper Lou invoice, and he circled that the trademark is officially his. And he said, "Y'all make jokes and t-shirts, gonna cost you." LOL. I'm trying to see all these people that are like, "Oh no," because you know people. Some of these things come out and they're not trademarked. They will take advantage and make sure. So I want to see all of the people that he's getting money from, getting the last laugh. Go ahead, Lemon Pepper Lou. I'm all for it. I just used the name. I didn't put it on any merchandise, so please don't come after me, all right? I just think it's a cool nickname. Own it. That's all I'm saying. Last but not least, we got Bronny James, Lil Bronny. Now, I feel like it was like a year ago that we were all getting hyped up, maybe even less than that. We were getting hyped up about Bronny's, dunking and doing all these crazy highlights, in practice or before the games and whatnot. Well, here we are. Fast forward to now, and before Bronny's doing like these little rim graves or dunks. Trying to do the dunks for like his dad and whatnot. We could tell that his jump just isn't there. But I mean, he was 14, so that's to be expected. Well, it hasn't even been a full year, and Bronny's out there dunking like this. Look at the ups. Watch his head. I feel like we were just watching Bronny getting up with something. That's a full windmill, and his forehead was at the rim. Now, maybe that might not be impressive to some, but we have to remember the kid is 15 years old. I was expecting some of this stuff to be coming closer to his junior, maybe his senior year. Nope. I guess just that the air and the hops and the vertical just runs into James' blood, I guess, because that is insane for just being a sophomore in high school, being able to do crap like that. So I'm excited to see what comes from him next season. But I want to drop that hype video of the young James' son as we move on over to Jackie Ray. And that is it for me here on Post Up.
That's a perfect way to end, Chris. Good job.
I know. The best thing I'm going to do for Jackie. So, Jackie, tell us what we not gonna do. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. All right,
Yes,
guys.
sir.
Jackie right here. This is what we not gonna do. First up, Josh Bellamy. Now, I think this one is actually, I'm going to have to give this one to the Justice Department a little bit, and I'm going to tell you why. So, if you don't know who Josh Bellamy is, in 2019, he's a wide receiver. He's considered special teams ace, and he was signed by the New York Jets to a 2-year deal. The 2-year deal was $2.75 million in guaranteed money. And then last year, he made a base salary of $930,000. This year, he was set to earn $2.25 million, but he had a shoulder injury, and because of that shoulder injury, the Jets did release him. Now, I want you guys to really think about his salary, because when you consider the average salary across America is $61,000 per year. I know a lot of people look at me crazy when I say that, but it's the average, which explains why a lot of guys, especially when you're talking about the NFL, before they didn't really want to speak up. Obviously, we're seeing a different time now, but I think they just thought that their money was going to be tampered with, and that is good money when you start to get into that $2.5 million range. I even know now we're seeing like these $180 million, and I don't even want to talk about Patrick Mahomes' deal because that was just ridiculous. But it's good money, so I get not wanting to mess that up. But technically, I think that's exactly what Josh did. He is recovering, like I said, from this shoulder injury. And even though the Jets released him before the Justice Department came for him, they did come for him. And he has been arrested for allegedly receiving more than $1.2 million in Paycheck Protection Program loans for his company, Drip Entertainment. If you guys don't remember, we talked about this a while ago. The Paycheck Protection loans from the government is for small businesses. We know a lot of small businesses have not been getting them. It's been big businesses that have been getting that, but it's supposed to help them through this COVID pandemic so they can keep their small businesses. Receiving the loans themselves is not necessarily the problem. The problem is the Justice Department is accusing him of spending more than $62,000 of loan money at the Hard Rock Casino in Florida. He also is accused of using more than $104,000 for luxury goods, including purchases at Dior, Gucci, and various jewelers, in addition to $302,000 that he just withdrew, and they don't entirely know why. He is a defendant with 10 other people who they say were trying to get $24 million from the Paycheck Protection Program. He is charged with a federal complaint of fraud, bank fraud, and conspiracy to commit wire fraud and bank fraud. So this is a federal offense, guys. If you don't know, if you've never watched a crime show, federal time is the worst time. That is not the time that you want. But here's the problem that I have with this. First, according to his IG page, his Drip Entertainment LLC, which only has 249 followers and 67 posts, but that's not the point. They are supposedly a full-service entertainment company that includes full DJs, equipment, light shows, event space booking, and even travel. So that's a lot. And when you think about what he was spending money on, it's possible that he was trying to get, say, a high-end client, and maybe this was one of those, hey, look at all that we can do thing. We don't really know the ins and outs of what this money was actually used for. Like, I know he bought Dior stuff, but depending on the bouginess of the party, it's possible. I don't know for sure, so I'm kind of waiting for all the details to come out on that. Second, the amount of the Justice Department is accusing him of is around $468,000, which would have been half of his 2019 salary. So in my head, even if it was fraudulent, maybe we give him an opportunity to pay the money back, because that's all the government really wants is their money. But maybe give him an opportunity to pay it back instead of having him face federal charges. And I only say that because we literally have millionaires and billionaires that are getting this program from the government that don't need it. We all know that the Church of Scientology is getting it. We talked here on the show that Kanye West is getting it. Floyd Money Mayweather is getting it. Tom Brady is getting it. Clearly, none of these people need the Paycheck Protection Program. So there's all kinds of levels to this, because there's no way in hell that I believe that Tom Brady, Floyd Money, and the Church of Scientology actually are using this for business. There's just no way, because the Church of Scientology is $1 billion a year institution. I don't even know what to call that thing. Anyway, I'm not saying what Josh did is right, but I'm saying there's a lot of undeserving people that are getting this money. So Devin, I want to ask you this question. Compared to the people that I name, is Josh Bellamy the little guy? And why do you think the U.S. Justice Department is going for the low-hanging fruit instead of truly investigating some of these bigger companies that receive this money, or even these athletes that have received this money that we know don't necessarily need the money, and they're taking the money from small businesses?
So that's a great question. And I honestly don't know that I have the best answer. But when you were talking about Floyd Mayweather, Tom Brady, Kanye West getting money from the Paycheck Protection Program, I also agree that they definitely didn't need it. And it's disheartening to see large sums of money going to people who already have enough to stay afloat and to keep their businesses afloat pretty much no matter what. But I have to admit, I don't really exactly know how this government program works. I feel like he is being investigated more thoroughly, though, because it is more difficult to justify Gucci and Dior and casino expenses as business expenses. Of course, they could have been, like you said, but what I'm also reading is that, and I think you did mention this, is that he's was trying to secure loans on behalf of family members, and I don't know. I think the luxury purchases were just a red flag, and maybe that's why they're kind of diving deeper into his situation as opposed to Tom Brady or Kanye West. But I don't know that I have a great answer for this, because I don't think I have a good understanding of how all of this works, how they decide what to look into and what not to look into.
Yeah, I think a red flag should be, if you're $1 billion a year industry, you probably don't need this small business loan, but maybe that's just me.
That's a great point.
All right, so let me get into this next one, because I know Chris and I are super excited about this, because he and I are huge Cam Newton fans. One of the things that I've been super concerned about, though, is we've seen what happens when Cam Newton gets in his head. That was the one thing that I was kind of concerned about, because whether I like the man or not, Tom Brady's legacy is solidified, especially when you're talking about the Patriots organization. So I didn't want Cam Newton to get over there, and then all of a sudden these naysayers talk about, oh, he's no Tom Brady. No, he's not. He's Cam Newton. So I was a little concerned as how he was going to handle that pressure. But he has spoken out on that, and I'm really excited to see what he had to say, because the first thing he said was, this is not pressure to me. Pressure is when you're looking at your children and you're saying you're 31 and you don't know. You're not ready to retire, but nobody is calling your phone. That's pressure, when you don't have control over your destiny. So I'm super glad to see that he realizes bigger life issues are more pressure than filling the shoes of Tom Brady. And I'm glad to know that he is feeling like he's in control of his own destiny now. He can get out there, he can do his thing, because he is a former MVP. He has been to the Super Bowl. There is literally people who will play their entire careers and cannot say that. So I am excited that he is excited. He also went on to say, I just want to remind myself that I've been here before. This is my 10th season. I've been playing in a lot of games in my life, a lot of opening days, and a lot of impactful, meaningful games. I know how to control myself. Reward yourself, but at the same time, don't be too hard on yourself that you can't get to the next play. That has been like my only criticism of him for his entire career, is like he needed to develop short-term memory. If you do something wrong this play, it doesn't matter the next play. Go out there and get it. So I'm so excited to hear him actually say this. His quote is perfect. I actually believe that he believes it. So Chris, tell me, are you excited that Cam is saying these types of things right now?
Yeah, it sounds like he was hanging out with LeVar Ball over the summer, man. Those sound like the same kind of things when you ask him.
It always goes back to your roommate. Why does it have to go back to your roommate?
No, but no, for real. That you're right, because I think that was the biggest critic for all of us is just him getting it in his own head, and it sounds like he's saying all the right things. And I'm hoping that that is exactly what he shows when he gets on the field. That's why I'm looking forward to that game outside of our game against the Buccaneers. Like I'm looking forward to seeing what he does with this new team, with this new environment, and. I think he's going to come out. He's going to show a lot of people. I don't think that he's going to go out there trying to be the next Tom Brady. He's going to show that Cam Newton is enough for the Patriots, and I think that's dope.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I'm with Britt though. I'm probably not going to watch the first half of that game because it's probably just going to be weird. So I'll probably check in the second half, and it's going to be a lot of people like running into each other, like, "Which way do we go? Which way do we go?" So I'm just going to wait till the second half. But I think it's going to be really good, and I am super excited to hear him say this. But now it is time for Britt's takes.
Britt's take.
I just came up with a nickname for us. We'll be second half shotties. So
there we go.
I love it, guys. Don't watch the first half. So we are going to actually transition into a little bit of basketball. We have been talking a lot about head coaches and how many we have in the league currently. Jackie talked about how it was 14 just a couple years ago, and now there's only 5. But Pacers' job is open for grabs, and according to reports, there are 2 people that are at the top of the list, and that is Chauncey Billups and Becky Hammon. So there has been tons of talk in the NBA. We have very few minorities now in head coaching positions, even though we know a good chunk of the league is minorities. Even a lot of the white guys you see aren't, they're Spanish guys or whatever from different countries. They're not even. So there is so much talk about, like, obviously the Nets hired Steve Nash as their head coach instead of Coach Vaughn. So then everybody's like, okay, what's going on here? Like, that's white privilege, that and the third. But this situation with the Pacers, I think, is very interesting because both of them are technically minorities. So obviously we know Chauncey Billups is black, and we know Becky Hammon is white, but she is also a woman. So if she would get the job, she would be the first woman head coach in the NBA. Obviously, there's good sides to both of them. We know Becky Hammon has been a coach for a little bit of time already. She's been assistant coach for the Spurs, and she was actually the head coach for the Spurs Summer League team when they won the Summer League championship. And there's tons of stuff with Chauncey Billups too. I mean, Chauncey Billups is a legend. His number is retired by the Pistons. He's a 5-time All-Star. He's a Finals MVP. He's an NBA champ. You know, he has so much going for him. And the question here is like, okay, so which minority is more important here? Which one do we need more? Do we need more black people? Do we need women? And both of them have sheets. Becky Hammon isn't just a coach. She also played herself. She is a 6-time All-Star. She is actually ranked in the WNBA came out with a list years ago of their top 15 players of all time. And she made that list. Like, she is no scrub when it comes to actually being a player on the court, which was some people's argument with the Steve Nash situation. Like, oh, well, he's like this 2-time MVP, and he's this, and of course, like, he should coach, even though he has no coaching experience. And we've seen, yes, Chauncey Billups has never coached before, but we have been watching him, especially if you watch the Clippers. He's been doing the commentating in a lot of his game in the bubble, and his basketball IQ is phenomenal. He is really good, and you can tell he really understands the game. He's played different roles when he was in the NBA himself. Like, there were times where, like, when he was Finals MVP, and there are also times when he was, like, a role player. He was like, not, teams weren't really checking for him like that. Like, he's kind of done a little bit of everything when it comes to NBA, so he could really understand a team and how to coach best to each player. So my question isn't just this thing with Chauncey Billups, who is obviously done great stuff as an NBA player, but has never coached and has done some commentating stuff. And people have talked a lot about, I know Paul Pierce said he should have been in a front office position years ago. He just wasn't an opportunity. And then Becky Hammon, who has been coaching under one of the greatest coaches of all time, Greg Popovich, and she's been up for head coaching jobs since last year that she hasn't received yet, and now is another opportunity for her to finally get that opportunity or to get a chance to be a head coach, which would be the first female head coach. But then I have a whole nother conversation that I want to talk about, like, hello, what's Sam Cassell? Because Sam Cassell literally mixes both of those two. And he has been coaching since 2009, and he has never been offered a head coaching position. Like, he has not only played in the league for a long time, but he coached since 2009. He's been coaching my Clippers since 2014. We all know the game he stepped in the bubble when Doc Rivers let him head coach. They won the game. Like, people love and respect Sam Cassell, but yet I haven't heard his name much in these conversations. And to be fair, like the Clippers are still in the playoffs, so maybe teams don't want to reveal that they are interested in having him as a head coach. But we also know that everything is most likely going to get pushed back for the NBA season. We know that NBA just decided this week that they're moving the draft to, I think, it's 18th now. If they're moving the draft to November 18th, we're not getting a December 1st start on this NBA season, you guys. That's not going to happen. That was a clear indicator that the NBA season is going to get pushed back. Like, I know there's been talks about it starting the first week of December and then possible talks about Christmas, but they were talking about those dates with a training camp start of the beginning of November. Now that cannot happen if they're moving the draft to November 18th. So I think they're rushing to make head coach positions right now. They probably even could have waited on the Nets decision because they already, I mean, even if Steve Nash would have went somewhere else, they still great head coach in that option. There are tons of great people that are up for jobs right now. I think Chauncey would make a great coach. I think Becky Hammon would make a great coach. And I definitely think Sam Cassell would make a great coach. But if I have to vote right now, out of those two for the Pacers, I am going with Becky Hammon. I just think that she is more well-deserved of the position. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a woman and I want to see the first female NBA head coach. I really think that she, I talked to, like, you guys know, I'm friends with Danny Green. I've talked to Danny Green several times when he was on the Spurs because that's where Becky Hammon first started her coaching career. And he loved working with her. And every player that has worked with Becky Hammon has said that she has been amazing as a coach, and she is very well respected. I know there's some guys that have issues with their masculinity or something, and so they don't want a woman coaching them. But I haven't heard that when it comes to Becky Hammon ever. Like, everybody respects her in the NBA, and I think she would make a great head coach, regardless of what team she goes to. But for this Pacers job, if it's between Chauncey Billups and Becky Hammon, I'm going with Becky Hammon. Like, we just have to, because we did the same thing with Coach Vaughn, honestly. That it wasn't just because he was Black that we wanted him in that position. It's because he already was there and helped develop that team and was the interim head coach for that team and helped the Nets do something with whatever players they had going into this thing, which was amazing, because he was missing his two big guys, or not big guys, Kyrie's little, but two big stars. But this situation, like, I'm taking the person who is most qualified, and that's Becky Hammon. I don't even understand why Chauncey Billups is technically in this conversation. Yeah, I'd love to see more Black head coaches, but I think hiring a female coach is considered a minority too. I'm just going to pull the whole entire panel up here, Leo, if we get everybody up here, because I kind of want to just do a little vote and ask everybody who they would want to see in that spot for the Pacers head coaching job.
Chauncey
I'll start
Billups.
with Devin. Oh, you got Chauncey?
Ain't question for me. Oh, Chris? Devin, you're muted.
You're muted. I can take it. I'll take it. I love all those options you said. I like Becky because My thing with Becky is I want her first job to be at a place where she will actually get the opportunity to thrive. Like, I don't want her to just be thrown on one of these bad teams like the Bulls or my Knicks or something like that, and then she gets blamed if nothing happens. And I think the Pacers are one of those teams where they're in a good place where they have youth and they can continue to grow and they can let her do her thing. So, yeah, I'd be cool with Becky Hammond. The reason why I don't want Chauncey Billups is because I want him to be upstairs. I want to be a GM or somewhere upstairs like he's been trying to do for the past few years. I think he'd be good at that. But I'd also be fine seeing him coach. But, yeah, my hat's on Becky as well for the Pacers job.
Yeah, I definitely think most people are wanting to see him in the front office kind of stuff. But
But if he wants to coach, I mean, do we know? Like, I know everybody probably wants to get up there at some point. But if he wants to coach,
I've never heard anything about him coaching.
I think he just get his foot in the door at some point. It's like maybe he starts coaching and he ends up being in a Doc Rivers position where he's also like, doing those calls and stuff as a president or as a GM or something like that, as well as being a coach. I think he is just trying to get in how he fits in. Evan, who's your vote for?
I also think Becky is better suited for the job because of that previous coaching experience. So yeah, I would put my vote on her. I'd like to see her take that role.
Becky.
I'm just rooting for everybody black, so I'm going with Chauncey.
Really exciting to see who lands where. I think by the time this is all said and done, all three of them, I think, because Sam Cassell, he needs to be offered a head
I agree.
Job,
I don't understand.
So would you take him? Would you take Becky over Sam?
For that team, yeah.
If I had to pick, I'm picking Sam over everybody. But Sam isn't up for the job right now. They haven't mentioned him. They have like a list of like 10 people, and Sam even on. But there are going to be, I think, a lot of head coaching jobs up for grabs during this moving into this off season and stuff. Hopefully, teams are just waiting until. Obviously, they have to wait until the playoffs or till the Clippers exit the playoffs or the playoffs are over for them for talking to Sam Cassell. So I'm hoping that's just what's happening right now. But I see all three of them having a job come next season. And that's Britt.
Sam I am. Give him the Pelicans. Right, give him Lonzo and Zion. Come on, Sam Cassell, get a job.
Okay, you guys.
I'm gonna wear a shirt that says like hire Sam or Sam for coach or something like that.
Sam I am a coach.
Sam I am a coach. Yeah, there it is. A coach on the bench.
We got to be specific about our prayer, Jackie. Remember?
Oh yeah, specific. You're right.
Make sure you subscribe to our channel, tap the bell for notifications, give this video a thumbs up, you guys. Leave a comment below, wash your hands, wear a mask. We'll see you guys later. Bye, everyone.
Second half shotties. See you Sunday.
Second half shotties. Ooh, yeah. Who that?
Who that? Who that shining on me, damn shit?
Who that?